All right, and welcome to the official world premiere of Cosmic Gas Station with Charlie and Billy. I am Charlie Thomas.
I am Billy
That's your cue,
Eli.
Billy.
Yeah, I am Billy Eli. Can you not hear me?
You may have, I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you. For those of you who caught us in our episode last week, that was a demo. We just wanted to see how it would work, and we liked it so much we released it as like a teaser. But this is the official world premiere. I'm very excited. We have not only the two of us as usual. We have a guest today, Jim Hemphill, who is a musician, plays and produces or has produced on some of Billy's records. And so, welcome, Jim.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Glad you could join us, because, the more the merrier.
Are we starting with
let's start with baseball.
Okay.
We're about halfway through. We're about halfway through the season, and well, actually, I guess a little more than halfway. But we've now been living with the automatic balls and strikes challenges since April, and I got to tell you, I like it. What about you?
I do too. And I saw a great play. I don't remember what game I was watching yesterday or the day before. It was runner on first, and the pitcher delivers a pitch. Runner on first, steals second, and gets thrown out, but it's ball four. And the catcher challenges the call, and it was a strike, so the runner's out. Man, that was great.
When they challenge wisely, it makes a lot of sense. But I've seen a lot of really poorly timed challenges. Like it's 0-1 with nobody on in the third inning. What are you challenging for?
Right.
That is a very low leverage situation.
Well, and I also, man, I think it's still new and novel, and you're gonna get that for a while, and you got to wonder how much. They've only started doing this since April, so you got to kind of wonder how much the coaches have sort of mentally prepped the players when not to do it, because you got a batter or a catcher, and to them, every single pitch is a big deal,
Yeah, I mean, so far the only thing that the coaches have consistently said is pitchers don't do your own challenges. Now, there have been a few exceptions where pitchers have done challenges. I remember Dodgers catcher Dalton Rushing getting very angry at his pitcher for challenging, but his pitcher was Shohei Ohtani that day, and Shohei gets to do what Shohei wants to do. Because he's sort of their moneymaker.
Isn't he getting $600 million?
More than that. He's I think $775 million.
Yeah.
He's and in fact, Dave Roberts, Dodgers manager, had to sit Dalton Rushing down, and Dalton Rushing is a very outspoken player. He beefs with everybody. Dave Roberts says, we like your energy, but cut the beef with Shohei. Shohei does what Shohei wants to do, and we let him because he's the greatest ball player possibly in all of history.
Yeah, maybe. It's really rare to see a slugger that's also going to be on the short list for Cy Young,
Absolutely. I mean, we talked about this a little bit last week, but honestly, there hasn't been a true two-way player since Babe Ruth, and Babe Ruth didn't do them both at the same time.
Thinking, man. Yeah, and when he played for Baltimore.
Well, yeah. Well, Babe Ruth was a pitcher even with when he was with the Red Sox before the Nanette trade. Right. You know that story, right?
I do, yeah. That's where
know,
that's where the curse of the Bambino sprang from, right?
Absolutely. But he was a 20-game winner as a pitcher that the Yankees bought because they didn't trade. They just gave the Red Sox $125,000, which is a lot of money in 1919. But
I got news for you. It's a lot of money in 2026 too, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely, but not like baseball money.
Right.
125,000 does 125,000 doesn't even cover the salary for a rookie anymore. But the Yankees bought him to be an outfielder because he also had a bat.
Right.
We haven't seen that in 100 years, and then Shohei Ohtani comes along and does them at the same time. Now, he's not pitching right now. He's got a sore knee. Well, he just continues to be the best hitter on the planet when he's not pitching.
Well, they won. The first series with them was year before last, right? They beat the Yankees. Wasn't that right?
Yes. Last year was the Blue Jays. Year before that was the Yankees.
And they won it what, in 6? 5 or 6?
I can't remember. I think it was 6, maybe
5 or 6. And he didn't pitch at all because he was injured all year, but he was a DH.
Yep. And I remember
I don't remember his slugging percentage or how many home runs he had, but it was significant. He was a contributor to that offense.
Well, the 2024 year when they played the Yankees, that was Shohei's 55 year, 55 home runs and 55 stolen bases. Because remember, he's also doing this from the leadoff spot.
Right. Yeah, but he was too injured to play his position. He wasn't pitching. He had some issue with his arm or rotator cuff or something on him.
Yeah, and I remember some sports writer making a wise-ass remark that while he's not pitching, the Dodgers paid $75 million for a DH, and then this designated hitter goes off and does that.
And does 55 home runs and 55 stolen bases.
And carries them to the World Series.
Right.
Speaking of the Yankees, they are still very much in the hunt, but Aaron Judge has been out. He's on the 60-day DL, probably not expected to come back until later this month or early August. My guess is early August. With him, they are... Yeah, I don't even know. But with Aaron Judge, the Yankees are clearly the favorite to win that division. Without him, they're, I think, like 2 or 3 games under 500. Is that doesn't seem sustainable.
I'm trying to see if
it
I can
doesn't
find out
seem
what his
sustainable.
injury is. No,
it doesn't seem sustainable that.
Well, what up?
Go ahead.
Me and you were watching a game at the same time. You're in Philly and I'm in Central Massachusetts, but we were it seemed like we were watching them. I don't even know who they were playing. Baltimore, somebody 2 years ago when Baltimore was good. And you had texted me at the time, man, can anybody on the Yankees besides Aaron Judge get a base hit? Because he'd gone 2 or 3 for 4, something like that, and nobody else on the team had a base hit.
Aaron Judge might be the best right-handed hitter since Joe DiMaggio.
He's got injured...
I feel comfortable.
Rib. Yeah, he's got a rib fracture.
Well, that'll do it. Yeah, I feel comfortable saying he's the best right-handed hitter since Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah, he kind of is. Moving on from the Yankees, because I don't like them.
Everybody hates the Yankees.
Me earlier today, and
they're like
well, maybe. Where the fuck did the White Sox come from?
Where the fuck did the White Sox... Okay, so They've lost 100 games each of the last 3 seasons. Now they're in first place, and it's completely unfortunate. Now, admittedly, the AL Central is a weak division. They're only 5 games over 500. Yep. But I would have put them down for another 100-loss season. And they're going to make the playoffs.
I believe only 2 teams in that division have a winning or above 500. Them and I think Minnesota or Cleveland maybe.
That sounds correct. I know the bottoms dropped out at the lower end where the Tigers are non-competitive and the Royals might be on track for 100 losses.
Let's don't talk about that.
I know they're your team. I know they're your team. AL Central. Yeah, White Sox are 54-49. Guardians are 54-52, and then Minnesota's below 500. And then after that, the bottom falls out.
I knew all the rest were. I knew only two of the teams in the division were above 500. The Royals are on. They're on track to lose 100 games.
Yeah, so are my Mets. Although I have the Mets game on now on mute in the background, they are 1 up on the Dodgers. Inexplicably.
Yeah, what inning? What inning?
The second, so it's early. They have plenty of time for the Mets to be the Mets.
Oh yeah,
earlier this week, Bryce Harper and Mookie Betts were on a podcast, and Mookie asks him, "Who are in?" Bryce Harper, of course, is a Philly. Who are your biggest rivals? He thought about it. Bryce Harper thought about it for a second and said, "Well, I'd say the Mets, but the Mets are the Mets. They're gonna Mets." He used them as a verb. Because Metsing is something. He used it as a verb. The Mets are gonna Mets. They will Mets. They're just gonna find a way to lose. What is the thing I say about them every year? The Mets will always break your heart, but never the same way twice.
They'll do it a different way every time.
I remember a couple of years ago the balk off. And you messaged me
off the winning run.
And you messaged me about the balk-off, and my reaction was, oh, yeah, it's been a while since that happened. And you took a second, and it just asked me, why are they your team? How are these guys your team?
Well, the thing about that I thought was so funny, man, was you said, it's been a while since that happened. And I was like, I've been a baseball fan most of my life. I don't ever remember that happening to any team. But it's happened to the Mets multiple times.
I've seen them walk in the winning run more times than I care to admit. And I come back to them every year. I come back to them every year.
Yeah, you like the Jets too, don't you?
That is a lie. I do not like the Jets. There were times when I have liked the Jets,
right? Yeah,
but ever since the butt fumble, it has just been. Do you remember the butt fumble?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ever since the butt fumble, I'm like, this is not a competent team anymore. And now they are just the standard for a franchise that cannot get out of its own way. And they always act like they're just one more player acquisition or a new coaching change away from winning. And no, the Jets are going to find a way to lose. It doesn't help that they were in the same division with the Patriots, who won all those years. It doesn't help that they're in the same division with the Bills, who are now winning consistently again. It does help them that they play the Dolphins twice a year. I will give them that. But even then, they lose games to the Dolphins. Although this year, you'll find this interesting. The odds are that the Jets will finish in third, and the Dolphins are like a 40-1 shot to win the division at the longest odds in that division. And I don't do the sports gambling thing. I don't bet, but I had to look at that. My immediate reaction was, hey, the Jets aren't favored to be last this year.
Yeah, and I still wouldn't bet on that.
No. So the other thing we talk about on this show a lot is music. Billy is a professional musician. I am not a professional, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guitars and a mandolin in my house right now. I have like a bunch more in storage because, of course, guitar players just buy more guitars than they need. But I'm also a musician. We talk about music a lot. And the story this week, Jonathan Cain, keyboard player from Journey, said that Bruce Springsteen and Jonathan Cain has become a MAGA Christian in his elder years, said Bruce Springsteen is a bitter, divisive old man because of all the politics on the Land of Hope and Glory tour. And that is not true, I don't think.
Really?
But Jonathan Cain is just going to say whatever Jonathan Cain says. And by the way, Jonathan Cain wrote Faithfully, which is the worst piece of shit I've ever heard.
First of all, I got to weigh in here and just say
I knew we were going to hear from you on this topic.
I cannot fucking stand Journey. Can I say fucking? I'm sorry.
Absolutely. You cannot fucking... I can't fucking stand Journey.
All right. Can't fucking stand them. And that Springsteen tour was amazing. It was really, really great.
I wanted to see it. I've seen Springsteen once on tour, once at a rally for Barack Obama in 2008. I wanted to see this tour, but I missed out the official tickets and the secondary market. They were like $500 a piece.
Yeah, we got in early somehow, and I've seen. I go back to the River Tour, not the Revival River Tour, but the original River Tour is the first time I saw Bruce. So that would have been 80, maybe 80.
Yeah,
something like that. Anyway, and so I've seen him.
Right.
I've seen him. I don't know, 7, 8, 9 times. I'm not a huge fan, but live is so good. And my wife is not really a fan at all, but she went to this and she was just blown away at how well it was put together, how well it was staged. It was awesome. So no, Jonathan Cain, and isn't Jonathan Cain married to some crazy right-wing woman as well? I think he is.
He is. I can't remember her name.
But anyway, yeah, no, yeah. Jonathan Cain, yeah, Journey.
You know, who does Jonathan Cain think he is? He's not the front man. He's not the big star. He's the third keyboard player in who managed to stick around after it became Steve Perry and Neil Schoen's band.
Yeah, right.
Journey did Steve Smith dirty. He's a legit drummer that they just fired. They just fired him, and he's a real good drummer.
He's
so
too
fuck
good to be in Journey. He's too good to be in Journey.
He's far too good to be in Journey.
He's married to Paula Michelle White Cain, who is a oh God, author,
she's
spiritual advisor, and televangelist.
See, yeah.
We're good to go now. I mean, and my windows are open. There's going to be plenty of noise coming in.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just too perfect here today.
I'm at Billy's house, and I'm just upstairs from him. And
I've actually stayed in that bed.
Yeah, okay. And the window's open here too. So, but it's a beautiful day. So, I'm used to. I'm used to 100 degrees in Texas right about now. So it's nice to be here for a change.
It's really a lot nicer than Texas, I've got to say, in many, many respects.
And by many, you mean all of them.
Well, Texas probably has the edge on barbecue.
And there's no probably about food. That. There's no probably about the edge of barbecue. Yeah.
I will. I've never actually been to Texas, so I just slandered a place without any personal knowledge.
We're used to it, but
I've both been there. Go ahead.
I live in Austin, so
Okay. One of the places I would consider spending a lot of time in.
I like it.
And
I'm not a huge fan of Texas as a state, and I don't know that I would want to live anywhere else in Texas, but I like Austin.
That Senate race is shaping up to be really interesting.
You know what? I wish I could be optimistic, but I've lived in Texas now 36 years, and I've seen this movie too many times, that, oh, we got a chance, and then it doesn't happen. So I would be pleasantly surprised, and I'm happy to be pleasantly surprised, but I mean, they're tied in the polls right now, and that's not good.
No,
I think it helps that Ken.
Go ahead.
I think it helps that Ken Paxton is uniquely hateable.
But true, and I have some Republican family members who are very much anti-Paxton, to the extent that they will not vote in that race now. They won't vote for Tallarico, but they won't vote for Paxton either. So they're just going to leave that blank, which is the next best thing.
I agree. Sometimes
that's
the
about
no
as
vote,
much as you can hope for.
Sometimes I think a certain vote one way deciding to withhold their vote is as good as voting for the other guy. I just hope, because I've seen this happen too many times, that whatever passes for leftists in Texas doesn't apply the purity tests that they've done all over the country elsewhere. Because Texas is not Maine.
Yeah,
right.
but that's not it's it's all about turnout, right? It's going to be all about turnout on both sides this time. Usually, the R's turn out pretty regularly and in pretty large numbers. I don't know how much impact Paxton being on the ticket is going to have to that. I mean, the folks I was talking about who said they won't vote for Paxton, they might be in the minority. They're what I would call they're non-MAGA R's, right? Non-MAGA Republicans. They're
right.
what I call country club Republicans, right? Who are repulsed by Trump and by Paxton, and so they're not gonna vote. But I'm not so sure that you go out to the outlying areas outside of the cities in Texas, and they all vote, and they vote red very heavily. So
yeah, I mean, I have no doubt that places like, and I only pulled this out of my ass because I know it's a real place, Jeff Davis County is not going to vote for Tallarico.
Safe bet.
Yeah, I mean, when you're named after Jefferson Davis, President of the Confederacy, you vote for the Klansman.
I'm with Jim, and like Jim, I hope I'm pleasantly surprised, but also like Jim, I've seen this movie a lot, and I expect what's going to happen. The last poll that I kind of looked at was a week or so ago, and Tallarico was up a couple points. But man, anything other than a Democrat being up 5 or more points, call it a dead heat. And it's not election day yet. And there's out there in those rural red counties and those, small red towns, there's people that are right now saying, well, man, I'm not voting for Paxton. But when they get in the voting booth, they will vote for him. And, and then I wasn't going to vote for Paxton, but Tallarico's a communist. He's wanting to turn Texas over to the Soviet Union. He's said he's going to make guns illegal. I mean, he doesn't have to say it, doesn't have power to do any of it. It doesn't matter. They're going to tell themselves a story, and they're going to believe that story. He kicks his dog,
Is there any Democrat that Republicans in Texas wouldn't say is a communist, though? I mean, they said that about Ann what the hell was her last name?
Richards.
Ann Richards. Ann Richards is no communist, but they
No,
tried
man,
to peg
in
her with
fact,
that.
she her actual policy positions, man, she wasn't about 2 clicks off being a Republican, you know.
Well, no,
But,
I mean she was a Democrat by Texas standards, which would make her
right,
a Republican most other places.
right.
One
I got him. Go ahead, Jim.
one of
Jim,
the,
go
I
ahead.
mean, just to put a cap on this whole thing with the Paxton versus Tallarico, I think one of the wild cards is going to be what's going to happen in the Rio Grande Valley, both for turnout and who's going to get the vote. Because if you will recall, the last presidential election, there was way more Republican votes from the Rio Grande Valley, which is traditionally Democratic stronghold, than anyone expected. And this, you know, with all the ICE raids and the stuff that Abbott, the governor, has been doing down along the Rio Grande, that might change and that might make a difference. I haven't really seen any analysis of
that
it.
is something of a wild card. You're right. And let me say this: they carried Republicans did a lot better there historically in 24 than they've ever done. The issue with that, I think that's the equivalent of when Alabama elected the Democratic senator to replace Judge Roy Moore. You know, I mean, I think it's kind of an anomaly, and I don't think that's sustainable for them. So yeah, that could in fact be a significant variable in the race.
Well, it all depends, frankly, on, and I know that the Rio Grande Valley is, and I don't know much about Texas. I know the Rio Grande Valley is heavily Hispanic because, you know,
because it's next to Mexico.
It's right next to Mexico, and there have been Mexicans living in that valley for literally 200 years,
right?
Who are every bit as American as you and me, but you know they're going to face.
Right,
I'm afraid they're going to face a lot of.
And they speak Spanish, right?
Exactly, and there's going to be a lot of ICE activity just around. I think around the time of the election to intimidate those people from voting.
Yeah, the thing about that is I don't know that that'll have the desired effect. It's more likely to piss them off than intimidate them.
I can see that.
Yeah, I haven't read any analysis or any polling specifically from the valley, so I don't know how things are trending down there right now. You know, I haven't paid much attention to this race because I've become so defeatist, I guess. I mean, you know, there's no Paxton signs in my neighborhood, but yeah, I live in Austin in a neighborhood where it's full of Tallarico signs.
The real test will be those suburban Republicans if they hold their nose to vote for Paxton, or if they go against what they've done for 30 or 40 years since the great party shift.
Oh, what the thing Jim just said, he doesn't see, there's no Paxton signs in his neighborhood. It reminded me of something a friend of mine up here told me. I had just moved here and Beto O'Rourke was running for the Senate, and man, there were Beto signs everywhere here in Massachusetts. And
yeah.
And a friend of mine said, you think he can win? And I said, I do not think he will win. And another friend that was with us says, yeah, they like him a whole lot more in New England than they like him in Texas. And, he got painted as radical, but I mean, he was. Go ahead.
Beto had two things working against him. One, he was running against an incumbent. And even a guy like Ted Cruz has incumbent's advantage, even though he is a carbuncle on the ass of humanity. What was the
Well,
thing
that ought to tell you something about the way a Texas race is going to break, because if you were in Texas right now, anywhere in Austin or in goddamn Waxahachie, Tarrant County, where Fort Worth is, you'd be hard pressed to find a Republican that say they like or support Ted Cruz, but they're still going to turn out and vote for him because they can't vote for the liberal, left wing, commie, radical, whatever other adjectives you want to keep dumping on there.
Yep.
That sounds about right, Jim?
That's about right. You know, my favorite quote about Ted Cruz is from Al Franken. And Al Franken, when he was in the Senate, he said, you know, I think I like Ted Cruz more than anyone else in the Senate, and I hate Ted Cruz.
Right.
I think Lindsey Graham once said that you could kill Ted Cruz on the floor of the Senate, and 99 senators would not vote to convict.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. But
he's just so damn oily, man. I mean, he's just slimy.
Yeah.
And, you know, shit like that's a lot of why I no longer live in Texas. I'm sorry, man. This is way too much like living in a fucking asylum, and I just can't keep doing this.
Well, I was talking to one of Ted Cruz's law school classmates, and he said, well, everyone hated Ted Cruz at Harvard Law as well. And he had a rule for his study group. If you didn't do undergrad at Harvard, Yale, or Princeton, you couldn't be in Ted Cruz's study group. And so he was a prick even back then.
Oh, I can believe that. Also, this Columbia hate would not stand. You know, that's only 3/8 of the Ivy there, Harvard, Yale, or Princeton.
That's right. And the guy I was talking to had gone to Wesleyan, which is a fine liberal arts school. And he's like, yeah. I said he wouldn't let you in. He said, well, I didn't want to be in Ted Cruz's study group.
Right.
But he had this well-known rule, and people made fun of him in law school for that. So.
Yeah,
that
and your
sounds
friend's
very much
position
like
was
what I would expect from Ted Cruz.
He wouldn't have joined the study group even had he been eligible.
Exactly.
So we're at the midway point, and I think we've talked about everything we already planned to talk about, which is sort of disheartening.
Let's talk about music. And before we go any further, man, I'm not going to speak for Jim, but I'm going to tell you, I'm a little slow today because many beers and many shots of tequila were drank last night. We did a gig in the alley, and I was in bed by 11. I don't think Jim was.
Not.
I think Jim was up a little later, like about 3 a.m., something like that.
Let me fill the audience in who do not know. Billy lives in East Hampton, Massachusetts, in a house with a dragon painted on it. And usually I wouldn't even say that because strangers might stop by, except you like that. You walk around town saying, come over to the alley.
Right. I like it when strangers stop by. It never gets strange enough to me.
Billy built a stage in the alley next to his house, and they played a just the hell of it gig last night.
We had like a block party.
And I will put the link up to the performance on our socials.
Yeah.
Who was the band? I mean, you, Jim, and who else?
Man, it was funny. I met that thing you were saying. I do, man. There was this guy kind of walking by, and I was out on a porch 6 months ago, monkeying with a guitar, and he comes over. He goes, "You play guitar?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I play bass." Well, I mean, I get that a lot. Now, can you really play bass, or do you own a bass? And somebody that's worked a whole bunch of gigs, it's their outlook on the whole thing's different. But I was like, cool, man, you ought to bring your bass and come over sometimes. And he said, I will. And I get to talking to him, and he's from the Boston area, but I mean, he had a real career, man. He played bass with Roy Buchanan.
Okay.
He worked with some of my country guys, like Dick Curtis, did the truck driving song, Tombstone Every Mile. And he's played a lot of blues gigs. That was his career. He was a touring musician. And I was like, man, I'm in this little bitty small town, and he lives just like half a mile from me. And so we had this gig.
Cool.
And I said, me and Jim were just going to do it as a duo. And I said, hey, man, you want to do a gig with us? And he said, sure. At the alley, he said, you know what? I said, we'll play an hour, hour and a half, something like that. I sent him the material. And last week, he sent me a text. He said, hey, could we get together and practice this one time before? I said, yeah, we'll probably try to practice twice. But yeah, why don't you come over this weekend? And man, he had this stuff cold. It was he was prepared, and so we played Friday night across the street at Luther's, and I managed to. He said, "I'll play that gig too if you want." And I was like, "Why not?" I got a friend of mine here that he's in a working pro band, and he plays drums. And I said, "Are you working Friday?" He said, "No, man. You want me to play that gig with you?" And I said, "I do." So we filled it a 4-piece band. Russell Keys is the bass player, and Tom Del Negro played drums. He's got his own group too, but he covers gigs for me when I need somebody and he's available. I got to tell you, man, I was pretty pleased with what we put together Friday. If I'd have been thinking, I'd have recorded it, but I didn't think that far ahead.
Two thoughts. You are correct that there is a world of difference between guys who play bass and bass players.
Right.
I have a bass. I use it on my silly demos, but I'm just hitting the root, right? I'm not doing anything interesting with it.
Right. You play bass the same way I play bass. I can play a root note and I can do a 1/5 powder. Yeah.
There is a guy on Instagram who he plays tuba, and his entire shtick is he replicates classic bass lines on the tuba. And it sounds great, but he was doing a McCartney bass line. I can't remember which one. And all I could think was, this is so freaking complicated, how, and McCartney he's a very melodic bass player. He's moving all over the place. I saw him on a clip of I think he was playing Jet with Wings, and he's playing and singing, and his fingers just never stop moving, even when he's not taking it easy, even when he's also the front of the band. He's still
like you said, he's a melodic guy, man. So much of stuff he does on fucking piano, It's so yeah, he approaches it a little different, I'm sure.
And he did half the drumming on Abbey Road. He did. Ringo would record his parts, and then he'd go home, and then McCartney would stay till like midnight redoing some of the drum parts. Although the drums on the medley on the end of side 2, that's all Ringo. That solo is Ringo.
And McCartney is obviously incredibly gifted and talented as a musician, but in my opinion, his drumming is extraordinarily stiff compared to Ringo. He was no Ringo.
He was no Ringo is a really good in the pocket guy.
Go ahead.
His rhythm is just impeccable. His timing is impeccable, and his restraint is impeccable. It's easy to do big, complicated fills, right? Knowing when to hold back is a whole different proposition.
Actually, man, some of the drummers I've worked with, I have to disagree with you. It's not always easy doing big, complicated fills.
Fair enough.
We were having that conversation yesterday at different times in different bands. Me and Jim both played with a drummer that every time he'd play a fill, he'd pick up a bit, he'd add a beat, and so he'd come in on 4, and you're gonna come in on the 1. Well, now there's 5 beats in the bar next time, man.
Yeah, the fills always seem to take one extra count. And when you're ready, come in on the 1. Yeah, no, that's some drummers, I guess they're drum owners or drum players, but not drummers.
You know who else is I was going to say, you know who else is really
talking about Ringo's touch and everything? Mine and Jim's friend and the drummer we work with a lot, Dale Daniel, described Ringo. I asked him one time, I said, "You like his drumming?" He said, "Man, he's got a great swing." And that's kind of all that stuff that you're talking about, man. His touch, it's not stiff. He's real fluid. And
it's also
a lot of discussions about baseball and drummers.
And I'd like him then.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like him then.
You would like.
It's also interesting. It's also interesting that Ringo he's playing backwards. He's a natural left-handed person playing a right-handed kit, which is why
I'm not the Beatles fans y'all are.
Which is why his fills sound like they're going backwards, because he leads with the left hand, but he's coming from the big floor tom, like in Come Together. Shook shook doodly doo doodly doo. He goes from low to high.
Yeah, and the other thing about Ringo is he was what I would call a musical drummer, because he played for the song and he did some creative stuff. It wasn't technically demanding, but like, listen to Ticket to Ride, listen to Rain. Some of those things he did in there were just tremendous. And Ticket to Ride, he took a pretty routine snare tom kind of pattern, but he varied it just slightly between the verses. And so he's doing something just a little bit different, and that just kind of elevates what he does. I'm a fan. I wouldn't call him one of my favorite drummers, but I think he was perfect for that band.
Absolutely. I mean, it's hard to be critical of a frickin' Beatle, right? You know, all they did was reinvent rock and roll for a new decade, and
you can't hardly
change everything that came after.
They didn't pull it off, man. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. One of the
go ahead.
One of the musical discussions that me and Jim have had this, and everybody I know, we're talking about drummers now, but it can be any instrument. Of a band that would not be that same band without that one piece. And I think obviously Ringo fills that role with the Beatles, because they started with Pete Best, and that wasn't the same band. You make an argument as to how good it was, or if it was good or better or equal or whatever, but it really locked and came together for them when they brought Ringo on board.
I'd agree wholeheartedly. What's interesting is that I read somewhere that they brought him in for looks, and I always thought he was kind of goofy looking. You know, there is. Go ahead.
Pete Best was very popular with the girls. And so there were some female Beatles fans back in the Liverpool days that were upset. But Ringo was known as the best drummer in Liverpool at the time when he was with Rory Storm. And so
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, there is in my town, I live in Lansdowne, Pennsylvania, about 100 yards from me, there is a theater that is now a new music venue. It was a movie house that underwent a massive restoration, and now they're booking concerts. I got comp tickets to, and I went mostly just to check out the venue, see what the sound was like, see what the lights were like. It was a Beatles tribute band, which, fine, whatever. But these guys, they put on fake Liverpool accents and called each other John, Paul, George, and Ringo. And I'm like, shut your fuckhole and play the songs.
The best Beatles tribute band I ever saw, and this is setting aside, like, Will Lee has a really, really,
yeah, the faux four.
Yeah,
the faux four.
But just, when you go to a bar and see a Beatles cover band, the best Beatles cover band I ever saw was not a Beatles cover band, but they were a band in the Midwest in the 80s called Cool Ray and the Polaroids. And they didn't do just Beatles stuff, and they didn't dress up, but they probably did half Beatles stuff. And they didn't try to do the look or, for Christ's sake, the accents or anything like that. They just got there and played the songs and just were tremendous. And, I like to go see bands that do a good job playing Beatles stuff, but that whole thing with, the bass player has to be left-handed and they've got to wear the collarless jackets and shit like that. Just play the songs, just play the songs.
That's what this band did, and they were specifically 1965 and earlier. So I think there was only one song from Revolver. They did Taxman, which, I like Taxman, but for me, Rubber Soul is when they get interesting. They did one from Rubber Soul, one from Revolver, and nothing from later. So it was all 65 and earlier. They did, I remember that, and they let the drummers sing, because Ringo sang it for real, their cover of Buck Owens' Act Naturally, which I'm a huge Buck fan, and I like what they did with that song with when the Beatles did Act Naturally. And these guys were perfectly fine at replicating that sound, but there was no energy behind it. They were imitators. They were not interpreters.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I was not disappointed by the venue. The tech and the lights were fine. And I actually went back a few months later to see John Anderson of Yes. And I am not a prog rock fan by any stretch, but I was doing nothing on a Saturday night.
I hate prog rock.
It was one of the best shows I had ever seen. It helps that I was high as fuck. I think I took 30 milligrams and had something of a religious experience, but they opened up with Close to the Edge, which is like a 20-minute overture. That was an interesting thing because when John Anderson got fired by Yes, because Yes is actually still touring with a different singer now. When he got fired or quit from Yes, he went out and put together a solo project by recruiting the best guys from Yes tribute bands. So he just brought them in. And they play the material note for note, and it is not easy material by any stretch of the imagination, right? And he's 80 years old, and he still sounds like he did in the studio, which is itself a miracle.
That's what I was going to ask. He still can hit the notes, and he still has the voice?
He could still hit the highs, man.
Wow.
And he had a high range. He had a high register.
Interesting.
And let me tell you something. It does help to be high when you're watching prog rock.
Well, I think because when it comes
it made me a fan. It definitely made me a fan for that material. I was listening to Yes for the rest of the week before going back to my usual rotation, which tends to be. Yeah, no, it was fantastic. It was great. And my usual rotation is a lot more jangly guitars, Tom Petty, Springsteen.
Yeah, man, you're talking, yeah. Me and Jim both, man. We like that jangle style.
Here's another music topic that we need. Go ahead.
I was going to say we like our country music to jangle. And so I had a musical question I wanted to ask and get an answer from you guys. It won't take long. So, yacht rock, underappreciated art form, or big tub of shit?
I vote big tub of shit.
I concur.
It is.
Right.
It is not easy to play. Fair enough, right? It is trite. It is. The songs, the lyrics are not interesting. They spend all of their time and energy in the studio getting that sound, which again, it's very professional. It's very musical. The musicianship is great. I'm just bored.
Yeah, I mean, if you like it, great. Go on with your bad self. But to me, no. I just, and we were debating this at lunch today. That one of the questions is Steely Dan yacht rock?
And I said sometimes.
Steely Dan hate that term.
Yeah,
I despise Steely Dan, not because they're yacht rock, but because they're jazz adjacent. My favorite Steely Dan song is Dirty Work, which is the least Steely Dan in their catalog. Neither Becker nor Fagan sing it. It doesn't have 13th, 15th, 17th chords or whatever the fuck Walter Fagan was doing. It's relatively simple musically.
An augmented 27th chord.
When I'm looking at a chord chart and I get to E minor 11th, I'm like, okay, it's an E minor 7. That I can play. I can't hear the difference between 7 and 11. I know most listeners can't hear the difference between a 7th and an 11th.
Yeah, to me, I'm not a Steely Dan fan either, except for certain of their guitar solos in certain of their songs, because they had some really good players, particularly those that weren't particularly jazzy. Right, Skunk Baxter's solo on "Ricky Don't Lose That Number" is bluesy but melodic, and it's just really, really good.
I agree with that. I do agree with that.
And that wacky solo that I've lost his name. Anyway, in Peg, it is a really weird solo, and it's pretty great. Jay Graydon played that, and it's pretty great. But the Larry Carlton stuff, he's a great player, but it doesn't do much for me. But I like there's things that I won't turn off if they come on the radio just until the guitar solo's over. Then I switch.
I pretty much switch the channel from Steely Dan whenever I hear it. Just period. Because I unless it's that one song. Excuse me, I'm burping for some reason. Dirty Work is just fabulous in my estimation, and the rest of that catalog is a pile of shit. And I get a lot of heat for it because, how can you say Steely Dan suck? Okay, I'm saying it because they suck.
So your basis of saying they suck is that they suck.
It is a circular argument. I'm not even going to try to defend it. It's just not my cuppa.
Yeah, nor mine. With
one last music topic that gets into my day job. Fender.
I know
Fender is. They go through a litigious bent every 10 years where they sue some knockoff maker, and then they they go back to normal. Now they are in an extremely litigious bent. I am a lawyer. I am a lawyer for a living. So they are suing every clone maker. They've started suing secondhand dealers for putting Strat style in their listings for clones. They are alienating all of their fans, and I'm a Telecaster guy. But I don't have a Fender Telecaster. I've got a Chinese-made body with a Fender neck, and I just bought new pickups, and
we call that a parts cast.
Yeah, it's a parts cast.
You got a parts cast.
And it plays great, and I love it, but they would probably sue me for it because of it. And I want to get your thoughts as to what you think Fender is going to get out of this, other than pissing off all of their buyers.
I don't know what's going on. I hadn't heard that they got an infusion of private equity or anything like that, because private equity fucks up almost everything it touches. But
absolutely.
But this was as I understand it, and I could be wrong, but this whole wave of litigation and threats kind of stems from what I understand was more or less a default judgment they got in Europe.
That is
on the design of the body, right?
That is the legal theory. They're citing as precedent a default judgment that they brought suit against a Chinese manufacturer for selling Fender branded knockoffs, right? But so that's a legitimate claim, but nobody came to defend it. Now they say that they have a default judgment. Their theory, though, is not the trade dress, not the consumer confusion of trademark. They're claiming that Leo's body design is copyrighted. It's a work of art.
Yes, exactly.
Which is absolute bullshit.
Yeah, and they're alienating a lot of people, and I think that cooler heads should think things being advertised as Strat style is, if anything, reinforcing the strength of that brand. And they can sue PRS because I don't like PRS, but and I say that only
and
half.
They did. And they did. They sent a cease and desist over the Silver Sky.
I say that only half in jest. I'm not a big PRS fan, but I've played a Tele style, or T style, I guess maybe you have to say now, a T style guitar the last 2 nights, but it's not a Fender.
Bill Lawrence, and it sounds great.
It's a Bill Lawrence from the early 80s.
Well, that is, they seem to have moved on from sending cease and desists to cheap knockoffs into high-end luthier-made, hand-built, that just happens to use the Strat body shape. Well, there are 3 basic guitar designs: the Les Paul, the Strat, and the Telecaster. You can add Jazzmaster to it as well. That's a big number 4, though. The Les, the Strat, the Tele, they're the top 3 by far.
Easily.
That's meat and potatoes of almost everybody that plays an electric guitar.
Yeah, and they have been getting copied to one extent or another for 50, 60 years now.
Absolutely.
And like I said, they go through this every 10 years, but the scope of this is much bigger, because they're not going after simply the true knockoffs where they slap a Fender label on the headstock and it's completely misleading. They're going after people who brand their guitars themselves. It just happens to look like a Strat.
And they were successful on the headstock front for the Strat headstock, right? And
because the Strat headstock, I actually know the legal answer to this. This headstock design is not functional. It is purely trade dress. You can make a headstock that looks like anything and still retain the heart and soul of the instrument.
Right.
But that curvature shape that's on every Strat, that's been their purely decorative touch since 1954. I went to a guitar show last year and saw a 54 Strat for $65,000.
And you didn't buy it?
No, of course. I didn't even touch it. I looked at it and gawped and thought I wouldn't spend $65,000 even if Buddy Holly himself had taken a piss on it.
I think you can find one of those in Lubbock probably somewhere.
No doubt.
Probably more than one.
Buddy Holly pissed here.
Yep.
And on that note,
we out.
I guess we are at the 1 hour mark. It is time to wrap this up. I want to thank our first guest on the Cosmic Gas Station, Jim Hemphill. Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Charlie. It's been a gas.
We have a gig tonight.
See what I did there?
You have a gig today?
Yeah, 7 o'clock. At 7's, man. That dive down the street, that sports bar.
You're basically doing an entire tour of East Hampton. You were at Luthier's.
Cottage Street. Just Cottage Street.
Cottage Street.
We played.
Excellent.
We will have played 3 gigs, and I will have not gotten further than 400 feet from my house.
You need tour shirts that list all of those.
With the addresses.
Yes.
With the address.
Yeah. And maybe a
all
map.
Right.
Maybe a map with a.
But yeah. So you can do a pub crawl to commemorate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, until next week, I am Charlie Thomas.
Billy Eli.
And this has been the Cosmic Gas Station.
See y'all next week.